My name's Colin Giles, and I am a freelance aerial technician for ShotOver Systems and best friend to Tripp, which has been a wonderful host on this podcast.
I just want it to be a conversation, and there's just a camera over the shoulder.
Accept that there's people that are going to be better than you at that specific thing. So I know there's going to be someone that's better at editing.
And you could sit around and say, well, I haven't started on the main script because I'm waiting for it to be inspired, right? When you show up and you sit down and you go to your spot, the inspiration does come.
If I don't put my skin in the game, shed a bit of blood, how could I expect for the return I'm hoping for to be as severe as the sacrifice?
A lot of people will be like, I could never do, I have no idea how to do, and I didn't either for the most part. It's just sitting down and taking the time to learn it once, and then when you do, it's like, oh my gosh.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Imitates Life. I'm your host, Tripp. I am one of the founders of Thrifty Productions, and today we have the other one of the founders of Thrifty Productions, Colin. You'll hear me mention him from time to time. Colin and I went to high school together, we went to college together, and in college we did a lot of the same projects together, and we even started this company with the logo behind me. Colin's one of the coolest people I've come to know. He's shown me a lot about cameras and gear and technology, and anytime I talk to him, I feel like I don't know anything about camera gear. But Colin, forget what I have to say about you. Let's hear what you have to say about you. Give us a little introduction into your world.
Well, first of all, my main title should just be Tripp's friend. Currently, I'm in the office of Team 5 where I currently work, and it's been the best filmmaking kind of experience I've been a part of. I understand you are the creative type, and I've been the technical type. So it's nice to bounce ideas off of each other and make it work, right?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I love that you bring that up because so many people break it into those two, categories: left brain, right brain. What's the actual hands-on and what's the like theoretical, creative part of it. But what I've kind of learned in doing a lot of this research is that's not the case. Like resource allocation is a form of creativity. And so a lot of that goes into that technical aspect of like, how do you fit this into that? Or how do you get into this situation or get out of this situation? So I would say that you're being more creative than you're giving yourself license to.
Well, I would say like friends we both have, right, is like writers and stuff like that, is like it kind of all funnels down and like my job wouldn't exist without the creativity. So I kind of always put it on top. But like, like you said, it just kind of bounces each other where like you could shoot a whole project on an iPhone or a Canon. What we use like in college, like the little tiny DSLR when there was actual mirrors and cameras.
Yeah. Yeah, like the 5D if you were lucky.
Yeah.
We were shooting on like the 770D all the time.
And then we finally got to the C100 or whatever, and we're like, oh, filters and ND. I would say I kind of envy the creative types. I mean, my position currently is a bit more technical level and not like maybe as hands-on in the projects, but kind of the guy in the background making it happen. We'll get into that. I mean, even people like Marco, who we know, right? It's like, he can write and shoot stuff, and then the technical part is really just how creative you want to get with it, like with slow motion or even aerials, which I do. It's like just different perspectives, and it's like, what technology do you need to get that?
And I think that's what's really cool about it is because so many people, like I say, I talk to are like, oh, I'm not creative. I don't think like that. And they get confused between like artistic and creativity, where like exactly what you're talking about, like creativity is like artistic ability and more of that like kind of literary metaphors and stuff like that, which is more into the artistic, where creativity is just like, how do you make something happen? Where like an artist is seeing this vision of a painting in their head or a story, and they're kind of like feeding it to the world through the paper and the pen, like Hunter.
Right.
I interviewed on this podcast early on. He's a writer, and he writes beautifully.
Great episode.
Thank you. I all up to him. He was great.
I'm a watcher.
Huh?
I'm a watcher.
Yeah. I'm just here to bring people to a platform to talk about how cool they are. I think you're an amazing person. I think you're a lot more creative than you give yourself credit for. I want to go into part of that with a little backstory. So you're not just like into photos and stuff like that, or into videography, or not even videography, full on cinematography. it's been a long history for you of kind of this more technical part of art. Can you go into like some of the younger hobbies you had, like guitar, and what originally kind of got you into this space going into college?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously I've known you well, so you've seen my path, but like I would say pretty early on, I was never really interested in the camera per se until right after high school. But I've always had like a musical background playing guitar since I was like 9, and like, kind of like I feel like with film it takes like a level of discipline, and with that kind of provided some techniques for like, dealing with discipline like that. And then I got my first Sony RX100, like Mark III or Mark IV or whatever it was. And then through a mutual friend of ours, actually learned how to use it. I would say when I first got that, and then met this guy, shout out Christian Benoit. He was like doing some Nat Geo photography, like freelance dude, like up in Alaska, and really got to know him and like his family, and kind of went and figured out like way later down the road his brother was a technician doing what I want to do currently. Yeah, and then just got in like astrophotography. I would say from there it was just kind of like film school, and just kind of like it's not even like I wanted like all the answers. It was kind of just like what are the right questions to ask, right? And like
Can you go into that a little bit further? Because that's a really kind of, I don't know. There's so much more I want to hear about that. Like what are right? What was that process of trying to find the right questions to ask?
I don't know, like with like all the classes, you're like surrounded by so many people trying to achieve the same thing. And like I think even in our mutual like Common 100 class, it was like first question was like, what do you want to be? And then like if you wanted to be a director or a writer, you were kind of laughed at. So it was like, right. I would say I chose the path more realistic in my mind, which was just kind of like grunt work it out. It's like just kind of take what you can and do it for free at first with somebody with no experience. You don't really know what questions ask, but just kind of like, I would say just watch and learn. And that's what we kind of got with like hands-on at NAU, with, teachers like, it escapes me, but she's a DP for like some Hulu stuff.
Anka.
Anka. Yeah. She was great and like provided a lot of info. Got to see her actually after college randomly in LA. Yeah. I would say like just even in class, like asking about white balance, I'm like, oh, it's orange, it's blue. Like, like I don't know, what does it really mean? Like I'm underwater. Okay, now I have to use this other color to kind of balance things out. Like, and just kind of like ask that. But again, YouTube is a good source too. So I'm not saying like, you have to go to film school.
Yeah. I think a lot of us who went through film school would argue you don't have to go to film school.
Yeah, you could just buy a red. Don't do that, but you could.
Yeah, especially not now. My one of my buddies, Nason, he was the first interview. He started fresh out of high school. He did some film work in high school and then just got the job he has currently. He has more experience than I do. He's 3 years younger than me, and his work is so great. And he's just living in the edit. He's great at filming, and it just comes from that experience of just getting hands on and having someone to like look to and have those questions. And it's funny because you go to like school versus not school. There's times where I'll say stuff that he just knows intuitively, but he doesn't know he knows it because he's never had to verbalize it. So like there's been a couple times where I'm like, oh, shadow side camera, and he's like, what does that mean? And then I was like, oh, you want to have shadow side where the camera is, and he's like, oh yeah, that's just, why wouldn't you do that?
There's some terminology or acronyms that it's like maybe you pick up quicker with school or something, right? But
yeah. There's just so many things where it's like you've heard this, you've heard the terminology, and that's where school kind of takes away from it. It kind of takes the joy out of it because it's more of like a repetition game.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me was just access to people, right? It's like you get access to different, walks of life and diversity and stuff. And like, best thing about film school was like, kind of got to come up with what you want within some barriers, I guess. And like, maybe we did like one, commercial or something for like a product. And like that whole change of like you and I doing 50-50, like out of school is like, okay, now it's kind of just like the motivation's different. Like it's more financial, right? And you're like, okay, like, maybe I could do headshots photography, or I could do like promo videos for small businesses or something. And it's cool and you can get creative with it. But, I guess if you really want to just explore like some fictional tale and like film it and get all stylistic with it, right? With all the tools you can, like that's what I would say I miss at least.
Yeah. And tell me about it. I see this stuff on Instagram that people are posting of these. There's this one that keeps popping up, and I don't know who these people are, but they have like this really powerful like brand story that they're doing for this golf gear, and it's got this really cool. It's very in vogue with how it is on Instagram, where it's like it's got that film look where it's really hazy and it's really pastel-y colors. It looks like Wes Anderson, and it's all shot on like wide angle lenses. But it's these really cool stories of like golfing, and like it's telling a story, and they're like, we're a production company that doesn't, we're not videographers, we're cinematographers. And there is a difference. And I think we've talked about it on, our other podcast, the Apple Box, but it's kind of, as you step away from that, there's a time in school when our teachers were saying like, right now is when you get to make the pieces that are important to you, take that time. Sometimes I feel like I definitely didn't take advantage of the time, but what's something that
you can take it for granted a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, because like you're in that mindset of I'm doing it all the time. I'm talking to these people all the time, so it's abundant. So you think you have all the time in the world. Unfortunately, we had COVID and it cut us short. But question for you on building within that. You said you built your own framework within the film program. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you kind of did something pretty unique in your time at NAU.
Yeah, I would say I've kind of gravitated more towards like the niche side, or like, I bought like a drone, like DJI, when it was like, the little tiny, what was it, Phantom 3, right? And then crashed it. And then went on to the Mavic and was like interested in drones. And then FAA kind of got all together and was like, people can't fly a million drones in the air, especially commercially, like doing projects. And I wanted to do that. So I got the Part 107 license, which kind of got me familiar with like sectional charts and like airports and such. And so I was like, and then we were at school, and I think we had one on rental at our rental house, in the film program. You had to have a license to basically rent it out. And then, I'm assuming if you talk to anybody in the building, no one's like, what's a Part 107? Like, I don't have that. And so I kind of found myself in that like niche with the drones specifically. I wouldn't say I used it for many like internal projects with UTV, but I went to the VR lab there and then did, a documentary with one, and kind of got the idea of like that side of the world with like filmmaking, but also putting it on like an aerial platform. And specifically in that sense, it was virtual reality too. So it's like, oh, I got 8 lenses. I've definitely gravitated more towards the expensive side of equipment, I guess.
I mean, that's any part of filmmaking, right? Like you said you can make a video on an iPhone, and that's true, but even just to get like some modifiers for your iPhone, you're getting to the hundreds of dollars just like that.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's modular now. It's like Legos.
Yeah. And that's clearly led you to where you are now, right? Like that's kind of some experience you took with you where you are now. How did you kind of leaving college get to where you are now? Because you're not in Arizona anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles. Sometimes I wish I was still in Phoenix, but or Flagstaff for that matter. But yeah, call back to Christian, who got me when I was like interested in filmmaking. It was freelance. I through different trade shows, going out to Vegas, met his brother who was doing these using these systems called ShotOver K1. They have different models, but the K1 is the largest, and it's a 6-axis gimbal that goes on the nose of the helicopter. And then there's a aerial director photographer like in the seat, and then you got the pilot, sometimes the director too, depending. And he would technician those. So you're doing filter swaps, you're building the payload, putting like, mini LF with a, big 12-to-1 lens on the front of it, and, giving him all the phys control. And that interested me because it was just like, what's the next step up from the drone helicopter? But that wasn't like sorry, I should have put it out more, I guess, the timeline of it. But first out of college, I applied to work at Able Cine, which is a rental house in Hollywood. And that's where I got to meet other assistant cameramen for mostly TV shows. And they would prep all sorts of cameras. And I kind of went in as like, just totally eyes wide open, like not really knowing what everything's called, right? It's like, I'm like, oh, I know what a C47 is. Not that it's applicable, but, they'd be like, give me a Noga arm. And I'm like, okay. And I'm going back there like, Joe, like, what is that? And it's on some shelf in the back, and just help all the assistant cameras. And then only worked there 3 months. And then Christian's brother, JP, he saw me. He was picking up a lens for a job, an aerial shoot, and was like, you want a better job? And then immediately accepted the job when I interviewed with my current boss, Dylan Goss, who you look up on IMDb is just like, keep scrolling. He's done every, big blockbuster movie, and some directing of commercials as well. Yeah, finding someone like him kind of got me into that world of like freelancing, working at the rental shop, and kind of I was going to allude to this at some point.
No time like the present.
Dune, the first one, I have another poster for the second one somewhere, but Dune 1 was the first prep I did at Team 5. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go in there and be like kind of easy. There's just Pelican cases. I'm scanning barcodes, right? Like college too, at their rental house. It was intense. It was like, we're going to take 2 gimbals on 2 helicopters, ship thousands of pounds of equipment over to Jordan or Abu Dhabi. And I'm like kind of behind the scenes doing the paperwork and like coordinating things and prepping all the equipment, like going to the sub rental, like getting sub rentals, all these different lenses and cameras. We had some fancy like 50 to 1000 Canon that's like ancient looking, and they're like, it's one of one. And I'm like, I'll clean that for you. And yeah, and then using like what was it? Just some wild cameras. We had a array that was, I believe, the Venice 1s before the Venice 2s came out. And so we'd have 3 6K cameras in an array in this gimbal. You could shoot this 100, I don't know what it is, 120 degree maybe field of view, and they would use that as like VFX plates. So over the desert, and then you'd see the worm and all the like little buzzers coming in. You do all that for like, it was so much work, and then you do it, and you watch the movie, you're like, there was 2 seconds in there of a pretty cool aerial shot.
2 seconds of a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, maybe you make the trailer.
That's incredible. I didn't know that was your first one. That had to be so nerve-wracking.
That was the first prep. Yeah.
I feel like so many times in this industry, you just get thrown into the deep end.
I've the other person I work with as well, the main pilot, Fred North. Like I followed him before I met him, and I didn't really know he was a part of the company either. And then basically just kind of found out like, oh, I'm also working with you all the time. He's a legend in filmmaking and like understands all the shots and sees the monitors and really plans it out with the DP, shooting everything. Very cool.
This is great because like it gives such great background to who you are and what you're doing. One of the reasons why I love creativity is I was telling someone this the other day, it's akin to breathing. So like every human has the ability to breathe, but also every human needs to breathe, and they do it all day long. And I think creativity is just using your brain to figure out new, innovative, novel ideas, either taking, what you have in your course load and then you have this NAU like gear job, and you put those together, and then you get to a job where you're actually doing that, and then you throw in a little spice of the aerial, and now you're doing all 3 as a profession. And I think it's so funny to think back to, we worked in the cage at NAU together, the checkout room where they had all the gear.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever a day where you were like, oh yeah, I will be working.
No, certainly not.
Like you just never thought that.
Yeah. I mean,
but you still ended up there.
Yeah. And it's funny with aviation and filmmaking, it's like this weird contrast of like absolute safety first and like we need stuff to happen right now, and like playing that game a little bit. It's an interesting combo and lots of permits and regulations. But aside from all the fun paperwork and all the other stuff, I mean, like, what I was going to get to my point about like with Dylan too is I always wanted to work on the shoots themselves and be like on set. I feel like that's where we're like, both of us are probably just like, I guess, most happier in our element, right? Like I don't even have to think about stuff. It's like that my whole mind is just on like, having a successful day on set, everyone happy. But meeting Dylan, I got into the local 600 union in LA. So I was able to actually go on these sets, and I started out not even working on the gimbals. I wasn't trusted at that point yet, understandably. Built that trust up, and I've done it since then. But at first, it was the, to get in the technical side, I guess, is the getting wireless. So how does the director on the ground see video from the helicopter? And you can't necessarily just throw a tear deck, stick it on the window, and like have a guy with his little monitor on the ground. It's
not just one long cable.
Nope, just tethered.
Just walking along.
That would be great. Yeah, and I did those jobs at first. So then getting like the on-set experience and kind of seeing like, when I'm shipping a bunch of gear out somewhere, like where does it end up? Who's working on it? Like, and then just kind of learning from there. And it kind of gets to my point of like asking the right questions, right? Is this like, I could leave these guys alone, let them do their job, or I could just kind of be like, what's that? How'd you install that? What does that do? And then they tell you, and I'm just kind of taking mental notes, and I can like, later on prep a whole system, rig it up, and the guys are like, oh my God, like didn't know you could do that. Like, how about you come with me?
Yeah. One of my old football coaches used to say, you know, when you're in line to do the drill, watch the other people because you're learning. You're taking and there's neuroscience to back this up. There's something called mirror neurons. With my mumbling, a lot of these words with repetitive R's, you can't
Mere neurons, I could not say 3 times.
mirror neurons. So like when you see something being done, you actually start kind of recording like how it's going to be done. Is how I understand it. So don't quote me on that.
Yeah, and then just replicate.
Yeah, and so you start replicating, and so like when you ask those questions, you start seeing it get done. Then you can do it a lot better. That's why YouTube is such a great asset, and video is such a great asset for instructional purposes.
Right.
And so it's so cool to hear like that feedback of like, okay, even when I wasn't like fully invested, like I wasn't hands on doing this, I was still learning, and I think that helps people who are starting out figure out, okay, you know what, maybe like I don't know what I'm doing, but I can watch someone who does know what they're doing and then ask them questions and then start doing it myself.
Yeah, and put yourself, I guess the main point is like put yourself in that position to where you can watch somebody like that, maybe doing what you want to ultimately do. And, you got to just start out like, kind of just grunting it a little bit. Like you're not going to, I want to be a director. Like you can call yourself a director unless you're directing something. Are you really a director? And then if you can't get to that point, like maybe like watch a director, like intern, do something like for cheap or free at first, and then build yourself to the point where people are actually calling you.
Yeah. Well, to kind of pivot a little bit off of, the more like niche aspect of like what you do, more into like that kind of creative passion that you've had throughout your life. Without knowing it, it seems like you don't. Again, I think I'm going to be the first person to say you're one of the most creative. Actually, I'll be the second person to say how creative you are because your dad talks about it all the time.
Dad.
I'm sure for those of you who don't know, because none of you know, Colin's dad ran into Jimmy Fallon on a plane recently, and I'm sure he told Jimmy Fallon, he was like, "Oh, my son, so creative. You should have him on your show."
So creative. Yeah. No, he had little words for Jimmy. He just had an SNL callback. That was great. He chuckled.
Yeah. You just gotta throw something out. If you're a dad, if you're anyone else, you're gonna respect their privacy. But if you're a dad, you're gonna throw out a reference.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's nice of you to say that. I just recently got an AR camera, so I feel like I don't actually pick up a camera myself. I just like build it and give it to someone else and like be creative. And then I'm just more on the tech side, but like, yeah, I don't know.
But the part of your job, I think that's most creative for you in that is like, a lot of times you'll call me and you'll talk about like, oh, like I'm just figuring out how to get like this lens on this gimbal in this housing on this helicopter, which is that resource allocation I was talking about, which is like, that's creativity. It's not like, it's so funny because it's within the same scope as, filmmaking because it's that visual physical space like visual rendering is the only word I can think of right now, but that is a form of creativity is visual space awareness. It's not necessarily like you're getting a pretty scene, but you're getting the pieces that fit together.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good I don't know, mental tool to have. Like I feel like with everything I do has been like a lot of just like, if you could call it creative problem solving, is like, and also doing it quick. And I guess from a business standpoint of view too, it's like you see so many camera accessories, why they exist, because a guy was like, well, this is annoying. I'm going to build this tiny little bracket that does this now and then sell it, right? But again, that's like, just problem solving. And you have to kind of like go through stuff to figure out like, oh, is this better? Is this not better? I mean, I just went through that whole process with the pretty crazy podcast called Flying Felon. You should watch this podcast and that one. But like, it was a lot of like, it's just producers or people coming to you saying like, I need 6 cameras in a helicopter, kind of make it happen. And it's like, oh, I need to power off of this AC to DC to AC power, then like power all these little monitors and cameras, and then like, how are you going to record them wirelessly? Like, and just going through that whole path and, scribbling on a lot of note paper, I guess, about how to solve it. But it, there's no like manual of like, oh, you do this. It's like, how do we do it? And figure it out.
It's one of the funniest things because that is such a big part. Like you said, there's so many modular parts to the camera gear and everything is modular. Like it is literally like Legos for adults. And I think most of the people who are interested in the filming aspect of it, like if you're above the line, sure, you're going to get into the writing and the directing and the stuff like that. But if you're below the line, if you're like a cinematographer, you have to at some point have had to build an array or build like out
Right.
like just every aspect of it. I can't even begin. Like, I feel like if one first in LA sees me, someone in the local 600 sees me trying to describe what has to go into just rigging Ari, Amira, they're just like, this guy
Right.
doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, I know. It's funny. Like, I mean, even like, oh, it's so green. Like, I was like looking at the wall. I'm like, why is there this like weird circle with black lines, all it of it and stuff? And then it was like, oh, we're doing like a focus chart. I'm like, what's that? And it's pretty important. No, it's funny. I've had so many Zoom calls where the word like, we're gonna make it cinematic, like cinematic, and I'm like, what does that mean? And everyone has their own kind of meaning behind it. I guess it's so subjective. I wish I was doing more of I guess little passion projects or something like that. Like I was really into astrophotography, but LA doesn't really have stars, right? We have different
Really?
stars.
Different stars. You walk on the stars in
Yeah.
LA. Getting back into that more of like hands-on creativity, because like I love when people can do in their day job creative acts and be kind of in that flow state that you're talking about that you get on set. But as you kind of
Yeah.
get back into that, or what are some things you do in your free time that kind of help to just maybe like unwind or relax, or you just recently went on a
Yeah.
trip and got to use your camera?
Yeah. I mean, I got the Nikon ZR, and my previous, as you know, was A7S II. I had through college, shot one film on it, 8-bit still okay. And then it got stolen in LA, like many things I've had stolen. But then finally got the Nikon. Yeah,
That
bless.
A7 that A7S2 was the
my
camera.
my 50 mil Zeiss Planar gone, or yeah, the ZR, and then I had that, and then got to use it in Hawaii. But I guess free time wise, like I feel like I'm so like hyper focused on this, and I honestly wouldn't choose anything else besides like something that has to do with a camera. Like you would not find me in some like teller job at a bank, cashing checks. I really have been doing a lot of archery, which is like the easiest thing. I'm just looking at a dot out a hole, and I'm like, I'm gonna put this, arrow into that hole. It's super simple. I feel like everything else in my world would be like kind of complicated, then that just kind of dumbs things down. So yeah,
Yeah, so like you kind of get into a state where you're just like hyper focused and you're
yeah.
lasered in. I'm kind of prompting you to talk about guitar a little bit. I think
Hey,
uh, your
that too.
guitar is
My
quite impressive.
my my wife, I think, loved my guitar playing in the beginning a lot more than she does right now. She's like, "Oh my gosh, like an hour? Why? Like, can we watch some TV?" But no, I have my grandpa's old Alvarez acoustic, which is decent, and then my what is it, Fender Stratocaster, and we'll play those in my little one bedroom apartment when I can. But yeah, I think like staying like having dexterity in the fingers and training that, and also just kind of like training your mind too, like kind of like the archery, right? Is like you can kind of just escape for a bit and focus on something else. And what's cool about that is like I could cover songs, or I could just kind of be like, this chord goes to that chord, and that sounds pretty nice. Having that has definitely helped, I guess, like alleviate stress and kind of like being able to manage things at work like a lot better. Having kind of like those dynamics of like music, archery, something like physical and mental, right?
Yeah. No, and that's really what I want this the main message of this podcast to be, is that you just got to find the thing that works for you. So like in a previous episode I have coming out soon, I talk about how there's this Japanese philosophy called ikigai, which is
Mm,
4 parts. Well, the westernization of it is 4 parts. What are you good at? What problems are there in the world that you can solve? What needs are met, and then like how do you get paid for it, or something like that. I definitely
yeah,
missed one of those two, but basically it's taking your skills, what you're passionate about, like solving in the world, marrying those two, and how can you make it sustainable. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh, how can you make money doing it? But I think what's really important is like, how do you just keep it going? And so for you, it's those times where you kind of like get into that flow state of that hyper focus, where you can just kind of let the world fall away, and you're just like locked in on a target and you're just thinking, okay, like how can I feel, maybe the bow a little bit more, or, how do I adjust this slightly? Same with the guitar, like what is the transition from C to, like, I mean, the transition from C, A minor, and G has been told 1,000 times, maybe even a trillion.
Now go to F. You're like,
now go to F, yeah. Oh, it's a new one. But like,
right.
so many different songs with those same four chords. And so like just kind of going through that and having that fall away and just kind of really get brought into the present is really cool. It's also great for your mental health. It helps build different neural pathways and neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. And that's why I like to interview people, especially because like what's cool about you is you're in the creative field, where a lot of the people I've talked to in the past, they're just doing it as a side, like Hunter, for instance, like he's a pastor and he writes on the side. And I interviewed this guy Forbes who does it right full time, but he also has other things going on all the time, but he's also a stand-up comic. And so that's like part of his side quest, if you will. And I think it's really cool that like for you get to do this creative stuff, but like it's different creativity that you do in your free time, where you are kind of doing what you're calling those other people creative for, right? When you are doing different chord progressions, that's how you're communicating lyrically.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I like that Japanese philosophy that you were talking about. Like, they're good questions to ask and like reflect on, right? And like, I don't know. I don't even have an immediate response to that. There's a lot to think about.
No worries. I'm just bringing it up because it was the most recent episode. And so this season, because it hasn't been released yet, so you don't know any of this yet. So your first is based off of the hero's journey. So the idea was to break. Season 1 was trying to talk about flow state, how to get into flow state, and then season 2, I was like, or at the end of season 1, I was like, what's my purpose like of this show? But what am I trying to do with my life? And so I kind of created this prompting session with like Gemini and ChatGPT to kind of like tease out the ideas of like Ikigai and some other self-help stuff I've read, and then based off the hero's journey. And so I was like, okay, so what is my purpose? That's going to be the inciting incident, deciding what my purpose is. And so the purpose that kind of came out of it for me was building a community of creative people and starting that with this podcast. And then I kind of came away with like, okay, well, I need 12 episodes in 3 months. This is the second of those 12 episodes. And then I need to do some social events and post every day, which you made a comment and a lot of other people are making comments on, but my Go Create posts are a part of that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and to speak to that, I guess, right? I was in Hawaii and I keep seeing these posts from Tripp every day of Go Create. I'm like, all right, geez, I guess I got to bust the camera out and take a photo of this plant. Like, I don't know what to do. But yeah, do something. And then afterwards, I'm like, wow, I really like this green and the texture and like the leaf. Like my philosophy with it is like kind of been like, it's hard to start something, I guess, especially creatively. And then on the flip side of that, like executing it, like I can kind of be a jack of all trades and master at none, I guess. But like I've kind of found myself, at least personally, like in this, trying to like strive for like that perfection, I guess, end goal with it. And, mastering something, right? I've kind of found myself being like, even with guitar or archery, right? Like I'm not gonna be the best at this, but like I know enough and it's fun. Kind of like to your point, I guess I don't know, like having purpose is like pretty stressful, right? Like coming out of college, it was like COVID. I'm like sitting in my parents' room still, just kind of like, all right, what am I gonna do? And you'd really just have to like start and like execute on that. Like I just kind of came out to LA on like a whim, right? We were staying with I was staying with the name escapes me right now, but a friend of mine from UTV that graduated a year prior. If he's watching this at all, I'm sorry, but
I doubt he's
I stayed in his
watching.
apartment.
I appreciate you thinking people watch this.
Yeah, no, but like I stayed at his apartment, right, for like a couple months, and then finally found like my wife now, just kind of like starting something and like executing it and like finding purpose is like the stressful part, but you just kind of got to go through it, and then you have the privilege later on to be like, oh wow, so glad I made that decision.
Yeah, and your story is so great because it just goes back to like it repeats that same thing that keeps coming up every time I talk to people is you have an inkling of what you want to do, but you just got to get out and start doing things, right? Like you just got to start figuring out what it is, and then you'll find it along the way. I
Yeah,
do want to ask you a more serious question, a little bit more.
of course.
You talked about your camera getting stolen.
Yeah,
Can you take
to
me
my own
through that
fault. But
mindset? So like I remember you telling me about it, and like actually, thankfully, I have a light right here. Um,
yeah,
Brought to you by Colin Giles. I have a lot of stuff brought to you by Colin Giles. Maybe you just in the
right.
frame of this photo,
They're spread throughout Arizona.
because of this unfortunate happening. So could you take us through the
Yeah,
mindset and what that kind of felt like?
dark days. Yeah, I don't know. When I first moved to LA, it was probably like after a year of being here that when I first moved to LA, it was like I just wanted to film. I had my camera. It's just me out here. I don't really know anybody, and just doing my day job, scanning barcodes, and filmed some stuff in Santa Monica at night, and still had my Ronin gimbal at that time, and was just kind of shooting stuff, and went to Long Beach, and decided to leave it in the back of my car on the street. Woke up with a nice hole punched through the window, got it stolen. And I don't know, like at first, like mentally, I was just kind of, you know, like almost blaming myself a little bit. And then kind of just figured, like, Colin has a plan and God laughs. I guess he was laughing. So, I was like, I'm just going to kind of roll with it. And then it kind of got me to like really just, I don't know, I was like, I have a camera in my pocket. Like, why don't I just use my iPhone more? Sold my Ronin. And then, I'm like, I could make some money selling this gear at half price, or I could just give it to my friends who would use it. So gave you some equipment, gave Matt, I think like a lens maybe. But yeah, and it's good to see, you using it, right?
Oh, I mean, I use this stuff. I mean, I tell people this all the time, and everyone's like, "This guy's crazy," and I'm like, "Don't tell him that."
Right. My
He's
wife thinks
still.
I'm crazy too. You gave how much was it the lens we could have sold for?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, my gear. So like Colin's generosity has been a great thing for me. Nason in that first episode, he switched over
Yeah.
from he had a Blackmagic 4K. He switched to Sony, and he's like, I have all
Okay.
these lenses, and I don't have to switch. And I was like, dude, I have a Metabones. This is like $400. I never use it. Just take
Is
it.
that a
And he's like,
speed
I
booster
can give it
too?
back whenever. And I was like, just take it.
Sorry, was that a speed booster too? Did that like, or was it just the adapter?
No, it's the full one. Like, it's the lock one. It's the full lock. It's the same one you had that
Right.
got
Yeah.
stolen.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That was stolen too. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I had a camera strap too that was built by Blaine Barterson out in Seward, Alaska, that we used the zipline rope from the year prior that Tripp and I worked at the zipline, and like had like little custom weather stamp shit, whatever. And I was like, this is cool. What I want to do is freelance, right? Like I love coming to an office, sitting down at a desk sometimes, but like I'd so much rather be like on set, sweating, doing a 12-hour day,
Yeah.
or up in Alaska.
And like, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about being on set too. It's just like it's alive. It's got this like pulse, you know. Uh,
Yeah. It's like all the ants in the village collecting leaves for the queen or whatever and stuff. Everyone's got their own little job and purpose, right? And it's kind of just this like, tree, I guess, this ladder of like responsibility.
yeah, and it's an isolated bubble. Like it's its own society within wherever it is. Like the second you step onto
Yeah.
set, the whole world around you is just gone. It's like you go into a
Yeah.
football game or a baseball game. There's nothing else. You're at that
Yeah.
event. Yeah, being on set is
Yeah.
crazy.
And from like personal experience, I mean, I think my true first time on set was for Beverly Hills Cop, and that was filmed in, sorry, it was the like, I guess like very Capitol looking building, I guess, in Hollywood, Beverly Hills. And the shot was, a helicopter going super low, basically trimming the top of some palm trees. And then the director's like, well, I want the skids to kind of like make some sparks as it drags on the ground for this shot. And then I'm assisting in the wireless for it. So we're like, all right, like it's gonna wrap around a building, we're gonna lose it. And so we're like putting little nodes of, radio, like kind of encoding and decoding the camera, and putting that around so we could catch it. And then just watching like 50 people in a room with carts and some big director just watching that feed, and you're like, I hope it doesn't cut out. While you're just seeing this helicopter scrape along the ground. And I'm like, there's like no thinking of anything else. You're just so like hyper focused.
Yeah, that's definitely a little bit of a step up from a UTV production, right?
A little bit, right? Yeah, no, we were all using, yeah, 5Ds.
Yeah, we were using 5Ds and C200, C500s, and yeah, we all had
Yeah,
helicopters skidding
right.
down Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, I love me pulling up. I have to kind of wear a hat or something for credibility. They're like, I'm like rolling up with a sprinter van of equipment, going into the landing zone, which is just a street next to a 7-Eleven. They're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, I'm with that guy, the dude who flies.
There's nothing better than I. It happens on every set, like every set I've been on, but it just
Yeah,
continues to happen in my professional career, where you show up and
yeah,
someone asks you who you are, and you're just like, I'm me. I'm supposed to be here. Who are you?
right.
And
I do get used to wearing more all black, I guess, so at least I look somewhat official. Because I'd be the guy with a radio on like a stop sign. I'm like, that looks magnetic, and then I'd stick it on there for like the whole mesh network to kind of connect, and so they can see the video. And then some PA's like, oh, we got a bogey like on the outside. They're like, kick him out. I'm like, dude, I'm on your team.
yeah. I think I'm just trying to like hack your system. Like, what do you think's going on?
Yeah, I'm in there with headphones, just like, hey, I got their signal.
I'm gonna pre-release Beverly Hills Cop too.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah. And every project's a little different. That's what's fun. It's not like just like a straightforward process. It's just like it's always different.
Yeah, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, what that kind of does for your own just internals and what you like about that, the variety.
Yeah, no, we're both like I would say young enough, we're like 27, and yeah, I would say, after a certain period of time, like I'm no doctor, but like you start not really making those same connections. Like, you're absorbing all this information, just kind of making all these connections in your mind, neurons. And I don't think you should stop that. You shouldn't, there shouldn't be like this finite, resource of like just information in the world. Like, there's so much to learn. I find myself just like being challenged mentally. Not really so much challenging myself all the time, I would say, but others just kind of challenging myself like mentally all the time, and just always dealing with different issues and problems. And like the stress is more alleviated when you know that a problem will arise. Like, hey, I'm gonna have an issue. It's gonna happen. Don't know what it is yet, but we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, that neuroplasticity it does deteriorate over time. Like you're less neuroplastic over time. You can do things to fight that and
Yeah,
that a little bit higher than it should be. And doing exactly what you're talking about, like just testing yourself and pushing yourself beyond your limits and doing new things. So you're mentally challenged and you're trying new things. What are some of the new things you're kind of looking to try in this new year?
I like the mentally challenged. I totally feel
I had to put it that way. I'm
that.
sorry. I had to
I
put it
totally
that way.
feel that.
I,
Sorry.
I
What was
just
the
know I
question?
use an AI clip bot and it's gonna clip that so hard. I wanted it
Yeah,
to.
there's just gonna be subtitles underneath. Um, that's great. Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? I've had too much
I'll
caffeinated
ask you a
coffee.
less undercutted way. No, so what are some new ways you're trying to challenge yourself? What are some things that maybe like interest you that you haven't tried that I can maybe
Yeah.
enter you into trying? Let's try and figure out what's something you want to do in this new
Yeah.
year that you haven't tried yet that's maybe in the creative line.
Yeah, I don't know, like on a personal level for sure. Like I am pursuing flight school in June and moving out of Los Angeles because I can work remotely, fortunately. And keep doing what I do. Like, I'm a flight away from going on set in LA, but I don't know, the industry's kind of moved out of that a little bit. A lot of offices in like Europe and so on, right? And but yeah, interested in flight school and doing aviation. Obviously, I was inspired by that a lot by my boss, Fred, and just kind of being around aircraft all the time. But mixed into that, I'd love to, I'm addicted to like YouTube reels of like these, bush pilots in Alaska filming stuff, right? Like, I'm like, oh, a low pass over a glacier. Like, I don't care what camera it is, that's cinematic. Um, and using the info I have now of like knowing how to like weld or solder or like just kind of fabricate components, and like cut a piece of metal on a water jet and bend it and be like, oh, this works, and like creatively, I'd love to, you know, make brackets to go on these smaller airplanes to like maybe up that quality a bit, not just stick a GoPro on the side of a plane, but have maybe like a Ronin 4D sticking out. You got a remote operator right behind you and like a little, you know, Cub plane or something. Like that would be sick, right?
Yeah, no, and
You could DP it.
yeah, I would love to. You brought up the Ronin 4. What is it?
Yeah. 4D, I think that's what it is. Maybe
Yeah,
they have a new
4D.
one.
Thank you. I was interviewing someone in Canada for a shoot I might have in Canada, and he was like,
Oh, cool.
my son and I we film on the F9 FX9 or whatever the
Yep.
F9.
Cheyenne has that.
Yeah, it's some good stuff if you know how to use it.
Great
I've
camera.
also seen some people who don't use it right.
Right.
But he uses the FX3 as a like kind of their crash cam. But he was telling me the tilta arm for the gimbal that you put like the gimbal on. So he created a custom plate for both the tilta arm to be attached to a Steadicam vest, but also to the 4D on top of it. So he's like, I have the Ronin 4D on the tilta arm with the Steadicam vest, and I was like, so it's just a Frankenstein system, but it works.
Yeah.
And it goes.
But
back
he got this amazing Z-axis, low latitude, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, he says it's like the best. I was like, I mean, we just use for what we use a lot in corporate. It's just basically just either the Zion Crane 4 or 3, and then the Ronin S3, I think, is the other one we use most often.
Yeah. And it's
like,
funny, the Ronin 4D, you can kind of split, you know, this like body and the sensor and make it, you know, separate. And like on a larger scale, I guess that's what we do with the Rialtos, like with those, you know, that Dune shot I was talking about is like you have this Rialto head and the Venice.
So that's what the 4D
and
is.
it's like this.
The lens is.
Yeah, you can have it detached or attached, you know, and it has a little gimbal with the body, and you can, you know, use that and I think change out the lenses. I think the new one's like full frame too, but it's like a similar, I would say a similar platform in respects to like, you know, modular and being able to like kind of just, you know, you could have the body with all your SDI and everything and like monitoring and control in the plane, run it out the side, and then you got the camera out there and it's moving, focusing, you got fizz and everything.
Yeah. No, it's so cool when they like separated that brain from the body, from the eyes. Really, it's so cool to see.
Yeah.
You know, I forget what it is, but where it's like it looks like the jetpack. It's like the Easy Rig. Those as well, where they have just like the lens on top of it, but the back is the full on camera. It's just so cool
exactly.
to do with that technology.
Right.
So in that, you said you're moving. What is exciting about that for you? What if you want to talk about that? You don't have to talk about that. You can say
No, I'd love to. No one ever asks. It's pretty new. I don't know. I been in LA for 5 years and kind of see where the industry's going and at least my niche side of the industry is going, and just kind of want to move on to aviation, but still, you know, I don't know. We've worked in Alaska. I have family in Alaska, and I want to do more, I guess, creative stuff personally out there. Like, you know, there's so many opportunities to film. And I'm in the union, so it's still covering that Western Conference, and you know, so available to hire. Not too many of these ShotOver systems up there, but they go worldwide, I guess, and I can use them. But yeah, I would just say mostly going to get really into aviation, so I'm kind of just switching things around, I guess, in terms of like a career path per se. But yeah, I think that's a good fit in terms of, I guess, my overall personality, I guess, being up there. It's a very, you know, being in filmmaking, you're on a team and stuff, but like, I don't know, it's a very individual kind of like level up there, I guess, right? And you can kind of really branch off, do whatever you want. It's a very entrepreneurial mindset up there, I guess, of, you know, just kind of making your own stuff.
Yeah, and Alaska is a different breed of people. Like that, they take the creative lifestyle
For sure.
whole new standard. Like they are, everything they do in the summer is just preparing for little projects they're going to have all winter, and then it's also projects all summer. And it's like, oh, I work these 3 jobs so I can, you know, build additions to my house. I mean, we met someone who lived in a small shack, but they built the entire thing by themselves.
Right.
Like everything they
Yeah,
did was
exactly.
like a creative act. And so
Right.
Alaska is just like a creative person's playground. There's, like I said, we mentioned Blaine earlier. Like I said, he just everything he sees is some kind of different form of, how do I make this more creative, or how can I make this into something else?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even our mutual friend Jeremy Freeman, I mean, like he builds a house. I'm sure he has like, some boundaries to work with and stuff, but like I'm sure he gets pretty creative with how he, accomplishes like his goal with like how something's going to look, or, what the foundation's going to be like, maybe a building, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea, Colin. Maybe I should have Jeremy on the podcast to talk
Maybe you
about.
should have Jeremy Freeman on this
Yeah,
podcast.
I
Yeah, if he
should
could
see
talk to us
about
more.
having Jeremy Freeman on this podcast sometime.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I mean, he's trying to. I don't know if he's still not converted that red bus into a
Yeah.
cabin or whatever, but like I was looking through some old footage the other day of Murray, his big red bus, and
Right.
when we went, that's a cool one too, because that's like you just got some new gear, and we went out to this place
Yep.
called they called it Waikiki, but that's not what it was.
Mhm.
It was a cold lake beach in Alaska, and they put this trampoline out there, and we're just like
Right.
bouncing and having a good time. And Colin had just got some like you just got your Hollylands, right? Your Pterodex or whatever.
Yeah, I got the Hollyland like little HDMI like, receiver and transmitter with that little 5-inch monitor and the little, was it Tilta, little like old nucleus. And yeah, like you could have like, wireless video feed and, one motor control, I guess, or just focus, right? Just on the A7 on a Ronin, which is pretty cool. We got some fun shots, right? Got some slow-mo of Austin Handel on a trampoline.
Yeah, there's like so many cool stuff, and it's like that was a cool thing because so many times when we were shooting in college, it would just be like, "Oh, I got this new toy, I want to play with it."
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's for this one very specific thing, but I got it now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it kind of like opens the world, like, again, it's like kind of who you meet. Like we meet Levi Brown, and he's working at the zip line, but he's also rapping, and we're seeing him like on, Logic doing stuff, and we're like, let's visualize this, let's make it a video, and then just kind of like, all right, you sit on the tailgate, you ride the bike, you come at me, I got this, whatever, and stuff, and it's just like, okay, how do we make this cool? And that's I would say what I miss most of all, I guess, is just kind of like maybe not music videos specifically, but just kind of being like, let's do whatever we want to make this look cool, and like being well rounded enough to like be able to like go through the whole production line and like edit it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, so yeah, come around. We shot on yours, and like that first summer I went up there to make enough money to buy a camera, and then I had to get
Yeah.
my truck home, so I couldn't get a camera.
Yeah,
We
let's talk
went
about
back
that.
up. And then we went back up, and then I got enough money to get the camera. And so in his second video, I forget what it was, but we started shooting in the Yukon bar, and
Yes.
you gave me your Zion Crane V2 or whatever it was, and with my
Yep.
7.3 on top of it, and I was so excited I finally got to use it, and I'm like filming, and yeah, it's just like we filmed in the bar and then leaving the bar. I forget what song it was, but yeah, those
I
projects.
forget which song it was too. He's got a couple, Levi Brown. Or the Black Lab, sorry.
I think it's just Lab now. I think
Is it?
he's
Lab?
changed
All
it.
right.
Yeah. Might have to have him on this. Although I don't know, he is always been so busy. He is just doing stuff all the time. Like I don't know if you've kept up with it on Instagram, but
I do. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's like boxing. He's in like stand-up clubs. He's doing everything.
Right.
I can't
I
tell.
could fit you in my tight schedule. He could do it.
Well, any questions I have left for you? I don't know them. I'm kind of running out of.
Just a conversation, right? We chat occasionally.
Let me ask you a question that I kind of try to ask. What is some bit of advice? Since I know you, I know a lot of your backstory. I'm gonna go to a decision point. It's senior year of high school, right? You're about to go to NAU for film. You know that you want to do camera stuff. What advice today would you give to yourself then?
What advice today would I give myself then? Definitely don't have any regrets with how it's gone, the decision making. What I would tell myself then, really, I guess, personally, would just be like the things that you think are like big that maybe you messed up on, like it's not worth stressing over in that time. And then you just need to zoom out, like take your mental drone up in the sky and then just kind of look down and realize that you are, you're special, but you're not that special. Like, you're just part of this big melting pot of like everybody, and we're all just trying to, everyone's trying to pursue their own creative passion. And I think, I would tell myself just not kind of worry about maybe your purpose. It'll kind of find you.
Okay, yeah, I like that because, I mean, that goes along with the whole conversation, so that makes sense that you would say that.
Yeah,
it's
sticking with the program. Really, like I alluded to earlier, is like put yourself in like a group of like the right people that you want to, bounce off of each other and kind of like, grow each other up. There's no sense of like competition really, or at least there shouldn't be.
Yeah, and if there is, it's healthy competition. It's not like undercutting
Yeah,
competition, but like, hey,
exactly. Just
I'm doing
uplifting each
my
other.
best, you do your best. Like let's see
Yeah.
who wins this one and who wins the next one.
It makes me feel so much better when like, maybe I learn a new piece of information and then I pass that on and then somebody else, like I see them use that for something and I'm like, that makes me happy.
Yeah, no, it's so cool to see how we can interact, collaborate, connect, and improve each other. I think one of the cooler,
Yeah.
dumber things that is said is 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals 3, 4, 5, 6. Whatever it is. It's like you get two dynamic people, you put them together, you're going to get a lot more dynamic results. So
Yeah.
I love that, and I also love that the way you said that, because something that's kind of been coming up a lot in my life recently is just the realization that us as adults or just like people moving through the world are really like the creations of children. So like your child self has built this adult that you are based off of like what school you went to and what you focused on and who your parents were and what sports you played and what like out of school stuff you looked into. And then you get to this point in your life and you maybe meet someone and you're like, wait, all of this is weird? This is different?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to physical therapy a lot right now, and she's like,
Yeah.
is that how far your knees don't bend more than that? And I'm like, they never have.
Yeah.
She's like, they should. And I'm like, no, they're fine. And she's like, no, we're working on that tomorrow. Like,
Right. Yeah.
we're just cobbled together. And so finding that is what you're kind of saying is like, you'll find it along the way and then you'll make adjustments as you go.
Yeah, and like, I probably knew it a little bit back then, but didn't apply it too much. Is like, you probably know the quote better, but it's like, I would say like kind of comparisons, like the death of your own happiness a bit, right? And like, don't catch yourself comparing to others, like kind of just, carve your own path, as you say, I guess. Like, I found myself doing that occasionally, and then it's like you're never really, have that feeling of like, oh, I got here, I succeeded. You're just like, oh, I wish I was that guy. And I don't know, that's like creatively, like you're going to get stuck or get in a rut if you do that. Right.
Yeah. 100%. The quote is comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah. Joy. All right.
Yeah. And like, you're exactly right, which is funny because I think so many people in school, when we were in school together, were like, dude, this Tripp guy does not shut up about Colin. I swear. Because every time they'd be like, oh, you're really good, this, that, and the other thing. I'd be like, oh, you should see my friend Colin. You should see my friend Colin. His stuff's great.
But you're also the guy where if I'm on a hike in the middle of nowhere and there's one person popping out of the woods, they're like, Tripp? Like, how do you know?
That is true. That happens way too often. I know at least.
So you're pretty good at putting yourself around good people, and like, this platform I think is great for like just like my point in the beginning, I guess, which I've kind of learned recently, is just like asking questions, right? Like you're gonna get a lot of different answers.
Yeah, and like you don't know the right question until you ask, right? So like you just ask any question, and sometimes it's stupid.
There's no dumb questions until there is.
I back to set stories. The first like real set I was on was a reality TV show set, and we're packing up, and it's the last night. I'm tired. We've been there for like 10 hours. I'm tired. The gaffer thinks I'm an idiot. Just thinks I'm the dumbest person to ever walk the face of Earth. And then the first AC is, or the key grip is like in the same boat at this point. And so me and Matt, we mentioned him. This is the when we stayed in Hermosa Beach. And so
I was there.
There was like a bunch of different bags, and then there was less bags, and then there was one bag left. and I didn't know if it was camera or if it was lighting. So I or like, grip, gaff, whatever. So I walked up to the key grip and I was like, "Hey, is that the Easy Rig bag?" And he's like, "The bag that says Easy Rig?" Yeah. And I was like, "Thanks." And then I went over and
Smart.
Yeah, I'm big brain. I went over and grabbed it because I did not see it said Easy Rig on it. I just saw a black bag on the dark ground. So I go to pick it up, and as I go to pick it up, I hear him over this like 5-foot wall. Just like it wasn't like I could look over this wall. He's in the truck with the gaffer.
Right.
These people are just done with me. And then he just goes, "Yeah." This kid goes, "Hey, is this the Easy Rig bag?" And I'm like, "The one that says Easy Rig." And she goes, "Duh." And I was like, "Oh, okay. That sucks." And then but Matt comes up and he's like, "Hey man, you want to just like get out of here?" I was like, "No, why would we?" And he's like, "Never mind." And then he leaves.
Hey, at least.
And then the gaffer comes around the corner and she just looked at me. At this point, zero F's given. She just goes, "Duh," like to my face. Last thing she ever said to me. So there are stupid questions, but you know what? I'm stronger for it. I think it's one of the funniest stories.
I would say keep asking them. Don't stop.
Yeah, it can't be worse than that.
At least you'll have a funny story for later like this.
What's even better about it is I got my shoes wet earlier that day, and my socks were drenched, and the guy who was making fun of me gave me his socks. He had a spare pair of socks, and so when we were driving away, Matt was like, "Those guys were jerks." I was like, "Yeah, but at least I'm walking away with his socks." And he's like, "What?" Yeah, so like it is what it is, but you'll get a story out of it if it's really just profoundly stupid.
Yeah, I mean, if I had all the time in the world, I'd explain more. But hey, maybe we'll be in another season. I don't know.
Oh, there's always going to be more, and you're always welcome. I think we might even bring back the Apple box.
Maybe episode 4 or 5, whichever one it is.
I think it's 6. I think there's. I can look at it right now. We're looking at it live. Colin, entertain us.
I'm a couple hundred of those views. We'll do a multicam. We'll bring in Matt and all the other names we mentioned.
Yeah. That would be cool. Like a Thrifty 50 reunion.
Everyone's interrupting each other. Tripp's muting everyone.
I can't mute fast enough because everyone keeps unmuting himself.
You're on a switchboard.
Yeah, or 5 videos in there.
Oh my gosh.
6? Could be soon. Could be you.
Could be soon.
Well, thank you, Colin. I really appreciate it. We didn't do a formal introduction, so if you wouldn't mind giving us a formal introduction now, I'll throw it to the front.
Yeah, my name's Colin Giles, and I am a freelance aerial technician for ShotOver Systems and best friend to Tripp, which has been a wonderful host on this podcast.
Thank you. I don't try. That's the key.
You do. I didn't even bring notes. What do you got, notes?